And when this forum is going on at the same time, the sermon's going on in the sanctuary, and people will be coming in here for coffee after it's over with. And following the taping, I hope that the speakers will remain in case we don't get enough questions in. You'll still answer some questions. Is that okay? Well, y'all come on up here and sit down before we get started. I'm glad you can make it.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Larry Courts. I'm pinch hitting for David Koborowski, and welcome to the Public Affairs Forum, sponsored by the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin. Forums are held on most Sundays at 11:30 a.m. here at the church, here in Howson Hall, and the public is invited. For further information, please call 452-6168 or visit our website at austinuu.org. And here to introduce this morning's speaker, the chairman of the Forum Committee, Chris Cunningham.
Good morning. Glad to see you all here and to have these wonderful speakers here today. We're very excited about it. Keith Elkins is somebody that you've probably seen on TV, and so he needs little introduction except that he used to be a reporter for Channel 42, and then he left that to start the Freedom Foundation, Freedom of Information Foundation of Texas. And our other speakers has recently returned to Austin, Carlton Carl, and after spending 25 years in Washington, but he spent many years here before that working for various governors and people in the state government. And then when he was in Washington, he worked for a congressman up there and did multiple things. He's a journalist and the new CEO and of our well-known Texas Observer. So we're very excited to have both of these people here to speak about the state of news business, the Shield Law, and freedom of information. Let's give them both a hand.
I guess I'll start. It's great to be here and see friendly, progressive faces. A lot of people think that the only progressives in Texas are in Austin and little corners of Dallas and Houston and San Antonio maybe. But that's just not true. Our new editor, Bob Moser, came to us from the Nation, and I went up to Amarillo early in the year, and 150 progressives in the Panhandle turned out and treated us like rock stars. And then a few months later, I was in Marfa, and some of our freelance writers and a bookstore out in Marfa hosted an Observer event, and 80 people showed up in a town of 3,000. So we're everywhere, and we just need reasons to show ourselves more, I think. I'd like to spend a few minutes remembering Molly Ivins, who was once the co-editor of the Observer and always loved the Observer. She came to Texas, back to Texas in 1970 to edit the Texas Observer. And the very first speech that she made, public speech, was right here at the Unitarian Church. And she was nervous as hell. Anyway, unfortunately, she's no longer with us, but she does live in the Observer, and which is a publication that I started reading when I was in junior high school, which was a few years ago. My father shoved this dull-looking tabloid in my hand and said, "You need to be reading this." And as with most things, he was right. But how appropriate it is to talk about Molly and the Observer at the same time, and journalism more broadly. The Observer's been shining light in dark areas of Texas for 55 years now, as of December. But no one was a better symbol of what the Observer has always been and always hopes to be than Molly Ivins, who stuck up for the Bill of Rights and the power of muckraking journalism. She reveled in the wealth of material that was provided by Texas politics and government. She said, "I agree with an old state senator who always said that if you took all the fools out of the legislature, it would no longer be a representative body." For many of her last years, Molly hosted a regular monthly party, Final Friday, at her home in South Austin. It was populated by writers, Arthurs, she sometimes called them, artists, musicians, progressive activists, politicians. There were often famous visitors and guests from out of state. One Final Friday, there were some folks from Louisiana, and Molly greeted them. "I just want to explain the relationship between Texas and Louisiana politics. One time, y'all in Louisiana elected an unusually nutty governor, even by your standards. Name was Earl Long. Earl was so crazy his own family had him shipped off to the nut house in Galveston. We kept him for 6 weeks and shipped him back because he looked like a perfectly normal governor to us." All in all, she set the tone for the Observer's take on Texas. "Honest vulgarity," she said, "is so much nicer than affected gentility, and Texas ain't genteel." And just a couple more stories about Molly, who was my friend for 45 years. I once visited her when she was in New York working for the New York Times, which hired her because she could write so brilliantly and then wouldn't let her do it, and unceremoniously fired her for referring to a chicken festival as a gang pluck. She lived a block from Central Park, and we were out taking her dog for a walk. The dog got off the leash, ran down the street to Central Park, and I can still see Molly, 6 foot plus, red hair, arms flailing, running down the street, as did native New Yorkers, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs what the New Yorkers didn't realize was the name of her dog. "Shit, shit, shit," she hollered. Can that go on TV? Oh. Anyway, it was glorious. And I also never forget the day she called me from the Observer offices and invited me to help celebrate the Texas Observer's first profit ever. "Come on over to Schultz's," she said. "We're spending it all on a pitcher of beer. After that, you're on your own." Anyway, it's an interesting new world we live in, new politics. Hopefully things are changing in Texas as they are nationally and hopefully internationally. And in journalism and publishing, which is one of the reasons we're here. The revolutions in communicating information have been coming faster and faster, and arguably with more impact. From pictographs 30,000 years ago to hieroglyphics to 600 to 800 years ago, movable type and linotypes. Newspapers came very late to the game, particularly the kind of unbiased